What's up, everybody? Your pal Miles here, and welcome to another episode of Shaboovie. Now, what we normally do with Shaboovie is I take a show, a book, and a movie, which, as you can see, is in the super cool logo, hence the name Shaboovie, which my sister made the logo. Shout out to Deanna, also made the website, which is really cool if you want to check it out. But normally, what I do is I take a show, a book, and a movie, and I tie them all together using one connecting theme. So, for example, I did an episode on vampires, how people see vampires and use them as a symbol for otherness in society. Pretty cool episode. You should check it out. But we're going to do a little something different this time around. And I'm going to talk to you guys about my opinions a little bit here. And I'm not like an egomaniac or anything, even though Shibuya itself is kind of egomaniac because it's just me sharing my opinions. But I just like to share with you guys what I'm enthusiastic about and maybe what I'm not so enthusiastic about. But we're not going to talk, I'm not going to bash anything on this. This is all praise and me freaking out about stuff that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Now that we're at the half year point. Brief aside here with Shibuya, you're probably going to hear me clear my throat, spit on myself, misspeak, whatever because I hate editing. I don't want to learn how to edit, and it seems really hard. So you're going to get a bit of a live stream scenario here. But as I said, different kind of Shibuya episode here because we're going to talk about the best stuff of the year so far. As you guys know, if you've been on the website, if you haven't yet though, I compile all sorts of reviews across shows, books, and movies. Try to watch good things and bad things, kind of figure out what's what. So I wanted to go ahead and take the opportunity here halfway through the year to share with you guys what I feel is the best in all three bits of media so far. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with shows. And I'm going to do the top three of every category. So I'm not keeping you guys on here for 90 minutes doing my like top 50 or anything crazy like that. So my third, in my opinion, this is also subjective but objective. There are certain like favorite things that I like, things that maybe like I'm obsessed with, but I'm not going to rank in the top three. I'm trying to be objective, but of course it's still an opinion. You know, you can go around in circles with subjective and objective. But anyway, so in my opinion, the objectively third best show that I saw this year was Severance. Season 2 of Severance was awesome. We had to wait freaking years for it, like 3 years or something terrible like that. But this super cool dystopia about the like literal compartmentalization of people's minds that they're going through, where they are one person outside of work and another person inside of work in this weird occult sort of corporation called Lumen, and the people sort of the innies, as you would call them, trying to sort of rebel and get their freedom, led by Adam Scott, who's awesome in a dual role playing his innie and outie, of course. Severance really ramped it up. You know, it was a pretty stellar first season, a bit of a slow burn. In my opinion, the first like 6 episodes are just like really world building the first season, and they explode down the stretch, and it made the season really, really great. This season kind of flips that on its head a little bit for me, and I thought it kind of came right out the gate with a bang. And it continued to really build the world, which was really, really cool. It made it even more complex and weird. And Severance, I feel like, officially sort of became like the water cooler show this year, sort of like a modern day Lost. I'm a big Lost boy over here. Always, you know, providing more questions, getting people digging deep in the mythology, trying to figure out all the answers to all the bizarre things they're seeing on Severance. But actually, unlike Lost, providing those answers to a lot of those questions along the way. Had a killer finale. Ben Stiller, who produces and directs, said that we're not going to have to wait another 3 years to see what happens after that finale. But yeah, Severance really kicked it up a notch in this season, so it earns my number 3 spot. Number 2, The Studio, a newcomer to television and comes out of nowhere to just be literally one of the best first seasons of TV I've ever seen in my life. Premise of The Studio is you have Seth Rogen playing a leader of a production company, a fictional production company. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to balance his earnest love of film and seeing film as an art with like the cutthroat business nature of running a movie studio. So he's constantly having to like get stuck in these situations where he's sort of compromising his values for how much he loves film and having to toss that aside to make money. It's kind of a bummer. But the two big things that make the studio so awesome is the fact that they really try to ramp up the like anxiety of all these situations that he's going through as he's making these decisions. So a lot of the show is shot in super long, intricate, like really highly choreographed takes. It's really, really cool. I can't imagine what a headache it must have been to shoot every episode of the studio like this. But it's almost like 10 episodes of like the movie Birdman. You guys have seen Birdman. Super complex, amazing directing. Crazy to think that these are the guys who directed like super bad and like stuff like that. Like that's a great movie, but the technical stuff they get into here is crazy. And the other awesome aspect of the studio is the cameos. Like they're not gimmicky at all or anything, but Seth Rogen's character is fictional. The production company is fictional, but they interact with all of these real people. Martin Scorsese is in the first episode as himself. That tells you, like, right off the bat, some of the people that we're dealing with. But it's such a deep bench. It's Zoe Kravitz shows up. Um, Olivia Wilde plays herself. Zac Efron plays himself. There's all sorts of like really cool artsy independent directors that like show up as themselves. It's really cool. You can tell how much Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, his co-creator of the show, love film. And it's such a great show, and I hope we don't have to wait a bazillion years for the next season like some shows are doing these days. And my number one show.
I've been studying commercial aviation disasters as a hobby, and I started to notice a disturbing pattern in the causes of these crashes. 15 years ago, you recommended role-playing exercises. The FAA
said no. For whatever reason, they're just not going there.
I do have some experience with creating elaborate role-playing scenarios, and I do have money to put towards this.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there.
Let's work together to save some lives. Welcome to our stage.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever acted before?
No, I haven't.
Would you be willing to dress as a pilot?
Why not?
It's hard for us to be the people we ideally want to be. And the social pressures are on everyone, including pilots. What do you fly over at JetBlue?
320, 321.
Okay.
Well, that's cool.
If you can put the emotion into it to make you feel, it's going to change you.
The last thing I would want is anyone to feel unsafe.
How could that happen?
In order to make change, it's going to take something different.
Mr. Fielder, where does your sense of altruism come from, where all of a sudden you want to save lives? You're known for pranking.
This is not sincere.
Help.
All right. So number one is The Rehearsal. This is one of the most batshit shows you'll ever see in your entire life. Despite what that trailer showed, The Rehearsal is a comedy, which is just insane. But basically the premise, you have Nathan Fielder, who should be on like the Mount Rushmore of like TV creators. Like he also made the show Nathan For You, which is this weird reality prank show hybrid thing. But basically what The Rehearsal is it started off, this was its second season. The first season, he was just trying to help people deal with situations before they had to deal with them. So for example, there was this guy that had to confess to his trivia team that he was lying about his job. For some reason, the guy was lying about his job. So Nathan Fielder rebuilds the man's entire bar that they play trivia down to like the tears in the cushions. The budget on the show is amazing. And has cast members study the man's trivia team so that they can get it as realistic as possible so that he can actually practice that interaction. It is insane and like super, super intricate. And this season takes it to a whole other level because now Nathan Fielder is tackling the idea of plane crashes. And this was even before this sort of like random pandemic of plane crashes happened earlier this year. And as strange as it is, like he stages these actual plane crashes, not with like actual planes going down, but sort of these plane crash scenarios. At one point, he puts himself in the shoes of a famous pilot and lives their entire life from beginning to end. There's scenes where he plays a baby for a little while. It's insane. But basic as goofy as that all sounds, and as hard as the rehearsal is to describe, it's really, really cool, and it's still really, really funny, and it's just a total mindfuck because he's trying to say some earnest things about like identity and how people think of themselves and how we think of ourselves in relations to how we communicate with other people and our own value and our own sense of communication and comfort in communication. It's crazy. It is absolutely insane. It's only 6 episodes, 6 half-hour episodes. But seriously, if the rehearsal continues at this pace, it's going to be one of the greatest shows like of all time. And I'm not just a crazy person for thinking that. A lot of people think that. So you've got to check it out. Some of the scenarios that he builds out are just mind blowing. So that is my show list. And now we're going to move on to books. Number 3 in my book ranking is Rabbit Run by Jonathan Updike. And I started Rabbit Run. Basically, it's the story of a man that leaves his family because he's just having a midlife crisis. And I was so honestly, I read a few books like this where it's like middle-aged white dude like dealing with existential turmoil, and I was like, oh my god, this fucking guy again. Like, why do we need to? Why do I care about these people? like the main character, Harry Angstrom, is like honestly kind of a bad dude. He just like up and leaves his family for like no reason. So I was just having a really hard time sympathizing and getting on board with the book. But by the end of the book, I was literally like ugly crying on a plane reading the end of it. Because Updike manages to flesh out Angstrom enough that he's a fascinating character to read about, even though he's not super likable. And the big thing, too, is he really dives into the psychology of the characters around him, too, and how Harry affects them. And Rabbit Run's actually just the first book in a tetralogy of books. I think that means four. Quartet. That actually revisits Harry every like 10 years or something crazy like that. And if the first one is as good as the rest, like I can't imagine why, or I'm not surprised to hear that this series has been so praised as it is. He won a couple Pulitzers, I think, for this, for the series as a whole. So it's a pretty incredible book. So I highly recommend it. You might hate Harry Angstrom, but you're going to be really fascinated by him. There's a lot to say here about like morality, good versus being a good person versus being a bad person, religion. What would God want of us? It's pretty nuts. It's a pretty amazing book. Speaking of God, number 2 is The Color Purple, which I hadn't actually seen the original movie, which I stole these clips from. But I saw the new one, the musical that they made a few years ago, and I thought it was pretty good. So I've been meaning to check out the book forever because it's just a legendary book, and it did not disappoint. It's pretty incredible. The whole book is written in an epistolary format, and most of the book is in that epistolary form. The main character is writing to God because she doesn't feel comfortable enough speaking to anyone else. That puts you in the time frame of the kind of the frame of mind, excuse me, of the kind of insecurity of our main character, Celie. And it's pretty incredible to watch her journey because it's a very empowering journey, but she goes through some really, really just inexplicably rough shit in this book. But it's very, very rewarding. I kind of cried reading this one too. And it totally deserves all the hype that it gets. It is a total classic. Celie's surrounded by some amazing, amazing characters. The format, the whole letter format, the entire book is really, really creatively used and really cool. So Color Purple's coming in at number 2. And number 1 is written like this. I stole some screenshots of the book from online. You can see that there's in the top left corner, there's the same passage written in a square on this page, and on the next page, it's flipped over. I had to use a mirror to double check that there wasn't anything different between the two sections. There's pages that are blacked out. There's photographs in the book. All the formatting is nuts. And this book is called House of Leaves, which people probably think this is sacrilege that I put this above The Color Purple, but for me, it's the plot of House of Leaves. This is basically a horror infinite jest. If I just describe the premise of House of Leaves, it's going to blow your mind. So it's basically you're reading the book House of Leaves as a reader. The book House of Leaves that you're reading is written by a man named Johnny, and he wrote House of Leaves because he found the first draft of it next to a dead body. That dead body, that man, whose name is Zampano, had written that draft based on a documentary about a house that this photographer lives in. And inside the inside of the house is bigger than the outside of the house. There are tunnels that randomly evolve in the house, random hallways, doors that weren't there before. The floor will randomly drop out. The house basically becomes this maze. And so Zampano wrote this book about this documentary. Johnny is editing the book. The documentary doesn't even exist. Johnny can't even find record of the book or of the documentary. It's insane. It's much like The Rehearsal, and maybe this is just my thing. It's a total mindfuck. It's crazy. And it's on top of just being the house itself being a labyrinth, the book is a labyrinth. And it's sometimes I found myself reading a footnote, because there are footnotes, of course, like 500 footnotes, that would take me to the back of the book, which would then bring me to another footnote back to the front of the book, which would then take me to another footnote, like in the middle of the book. It's crazy. It's one of the most interactive reading experiences I've ever had, and it was so fun and so engaging and unlike any book I've ever read in my entire life. And it's still an earnestly good story. All the characters are really cool, especially the photographer and his family dealing with the whole haunted house. And it's earnestly scary too. It's still a really scary book. So I can recommend House of Leaves. It's a fat boy. It's like 700 pages long, but you will just blast through it because it is just so engaging. It's an amazing book. So that's my number one book. And now we pivot over to movies, which was out of nowhere, 3 horror movies. I'm not a horror buff. I'm just like a movie buff in general. But this year has turned into like an amazing year for horror movies, like right off the cuff. And number 3 is a movie called Bring Her Back, which is kind of flying under the radar for a lot of people. But this is by the same guys. They're the Philippou brothers, if I'm pronouncing their name correctly, who made this movie called Talk to Me a few years ago, which was one of the most unsettling theater experiences I've ever had. Like, me and my fiance walked out of that movie and we were like shaking in our boots. It was jarring. And Bring Her Back is somehow even more uncomfortable than that. It's a story about these 2 kids who are unfortunately orphaned, and they go and stay with Sally Hawkins, who is incredible in this, just unhinged, as a adoptive mother who has some pretty dark things up her sleeve. It is one of the most disturbing movies that I've seen in like a really long time, probably since Talk to Me. And there were points that I was like physically ill watching it, not because of what I was watching on screen was gross, but because it's just the dread is so unreal. And on top of that, it has a lot to say about grief and how we process grief, which is always nice to see, to get some good, significant themes out of a horror movie. Speaking of significant themes out of a horror movie, number 2 is a random third movie made 23 years after the original, 28 years later, which is, of course, the sequel to the legendary zombie movie, 28 Days Later. I think that's the best horror movie of the 2000s, the decade. And this, like, does it some pretty awesome justice. This is an incredible movie. I saw it just last week, and it has a lot spiritually in common with its predecessor. It's shot in the same sort of gritty way. The first one was shot with a camcorder. This one is shot with iPhones. It's really neat. The cinematography is incredible. The performances are good. It's so intense. But what makes this one different than 28 Days Later, and I might almost subjectively like it more, is it's like really heartfelt. It's about this boy who lives in this isolated community, and basically they have a tradition of taking them into the infected United Kingdom, now overrun by all these zombies, to sort of as a rite of passage. And he ends up like learning about death and how to process death. And it sounds grim, but it's actually really touching. And like I said, earnestly really heartfelt and emotional. So this was way better. I was so excited for it, and it was way better than I thought it would be. It's a killer movie. And my number 1 movie.
I've been all over this world. I seen men die in ways I ain't even know was possible. Love you, brother. Be careful. I will. With all the things that I've seen, I ain't ever seen no demons, no ghosts, no magic. Till now. To get back inside.
Let me in, man. Some weird shit going on out here. You keep dancing with the devil. One day he's gonna follow you home.
Ooh, that is a good movie, guys. Damn, it's so good. I've seen it twice. Sinners is my number one. For those of you who've seen it, like, you're probably not surprised, but this is an incredible movie, guys. It's by Ryan Coogler, same guy that made Black Panther and Creed, as you saw. And he also made an incredible movie with Fruitvale State called Fruitvale Station. It came out like 10 or so years ago. And all of his movies are with Michael B. Jordan. It's like literally one of the best director actor combos we have going on right now. But this is Ryan Coogler's first original movie, and it's so good. Honestly, I wasn't even psyched after watching the trailer. I hesitated even putting it in here because I didn't think it did the movie justice. But it's really hard to do this movie justice. And I know I said that it's a horror movie, but what makes Sinners so cool, and what Sinners is about, is it's about Michael B. Jordan playing twins who start a juke joint in the Deep South in the early 1900s and have a horrible night opening their juke joint when they're invaded by vampires. Which, again, I know that sounds it may not sound like an awesome draw, but somehow Brian Coogler makes this movie a horror movie. He makes it an action movie. He makes it a really convincing drama. He almost makes it a Western sometimes. It's one of the most best genre hopping movies I've ever seen. And the cast is incredible. Michael B. Jordan, maybe the best acting of his career, playing the twins. There's Haley Steinfeld is amazing in it. And it's so hard to even dive into everyone involved with this movie. It's so killer. But basically, with Sinners, on top of all of the genre hopping that's going on, and the amazing cast, and how just insanely entertaining the movie is, it is so deep. And I think that's what blew my mind the most. I thought it was just going to be an entertaining movie, seeing a couple Michael B. Jordans blow away some vampires, and it is kind of that. But it is also just rampant with a ton to say about society, racism, uh, the immigration in America, music, what music means for culture. There's tons to say about music. It has one of the most incredible one shots you'll see in a movie in years that is purely about music. And it's about freedom too. Most of the pretty much the entire cast is black. And literally all they want to do, all the characters want to do, is have a place to call their own for a night. And it's really tragic that they can't do that. But it's pretty incredible that Ryan Coogler tells this story, because it can still apply to everyone, even though it is a uniquely black story. But it's incredible. And I haven't talked to anyone that doesn't like it, that isn't obsessed with it. It's it's just it you can watch it in any way. You can just watch it and kick back and be entertained and have a great time and be thrilled by all the curveballs that Coogler throws at you the whole movie. Or you can write like a fucking essay on this movie if you wanted to, and everything he's trying to say, all the different socio-political stuff he's trying to get into. It's amazing. So that's it, guys. I know this one ran super long, but whatever. I was blabbing about my favorite things. It happens sometimes. But yeah, I wanted to do something different, show you guys, maybe point you in the right direction of some stuff. I know I post a lot of reviews, kind of hard to sift through maybe. But if you like what you saw and you're interested to learn or read more reviews or watch past episodes of Shaboovie's, you can go ahead and follow me on all the social media-ness and all that. But bottom line, thank you for watching. Again, I know it was a long one, but I hope it was entertained, and I hope you got some good recs out of this. But appreciate you guys. See ya.